for the audience that we're speaking to, and from what you've seen, say somebody has an idea for a business, like, and I should say,
Yeah.
Dear Media was kind of the first one that we took down a true venture private equity path. But before that, it was a lot of like bootstrapping, self-funding, doing our own things. When do you feel it's appropriate for people that are thinking about starting their own business to seek capital? Because I think that like for a long time, raising capital was glorified. It's like if you raise capital, people assumed you were successful. And I'm the first one to kind of push back against that and say, don't do it unless you absolutely need to, or there's a reason for growth. Like hold as much of your business as you can for as long as you can. At least that's my experience. But I wanted to get your take on it because I think raising capital has been celebrated, but there's a lot of people that raise capital and then lose all the fucking money. And so I want people to kind of like think about this like strategically.
Yeah. I mean, I love that you say that because I completely agree. I think when you're looking at venture, I mean, even for, this is still venture capital. As a venture capitalist, you're looking at a Series A potentially. By that point, you want the founders to own at least 80%, maybe 75, et cetera. Like, but we really don't want to start to see. And I think shows like Shark Tank, I think it's done so much in terms of educating consumers on like the behind the scenes of building a brand and what it takes. But I do think, to your point, like raising capital has become so sexy. And it's sort of that growth at all costs mentality that got us into the situation that we're in now. I think that the way that the macroeconomic situation is currently, it gives us a little bit more of a foundation to have those conversations of like bootstrap to the point of can't scale this without outside capital, or look at it like, okay, there's so far that I can take this company. Maybe I still have cash. Maybe I'm profitable on first order. Fucking amazing. But then from there, maybe I need, a little push to help me get into retail or wholesale. Or maybe I need somebody who has the talent relationships where we do have, Aaron Rodgers invest in the brand, and that does something from a press perspective, or gives us that like viability. So to your point, I think it's bootstrap as long as you can, where you can, until you cannot scale the business, or look at your investors, all of them as value add investors.
Yeah, to your perspective. So when we went out, so we bootstrapped the business all the way to Series A, which is not so common, right?
Incredible.
But myself and my co-founder, we owned 100% of the business before we brought in a single dollar of capital.
Goals.
And the reason I share that is because if we would have raised capital early on before you have any revenue and it's just an idea and it's just a thought, or maybe you've just done a little bit, I'm sure that venture capitalist would have wanted 50, 60% of the business. And then when you go out to do a Series A, or you raise real capital later, the founding team that's how you hear all these stories about the founding teams owning no percentage of their business, is because they sell too early. And so the reason I want to talk about that is a lot of people listening are like, oh, I can start a business, but I can't do it until I go raise money. And I don't think that's true. It's like, get a little bit of traction, get a little bit of revenue, have some more controls, because investors will look at that. And I actually think many will be excited knowing that the founding team is still vested and has so much, right? Like, it was important for my partners now, like when we started doing this, to be like, hey, Michael needs to have a significant part of equity because we want him like in the driver's seat and invested and excited about growing the business, where if you lose that, I think it's hard to scale moving forward.
Well, yeah. And the early capital that you raise, that's going to be the most expensive money that you
ever raise.
So yeah.
Hopefully.
If someone is out there, they're listening, like Michael said, and they have an idea, where would you put most of the money if they're starting out with a little bit of money?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to speak to this from a consumer brands perspective, because I think tech is a whole different beast, and I'm not going to profess to be an expert within that realm. I think if you're looking at a consumer brand or media or commerce enablement or marketplaces, I mean, any sort of that realm, there is so much that you can do in proving not only the concept and the market opportunity, but also building a community. And I think nowadays, for somebody looking to build a brand, it's most important that you have an incredible product and that you have a community of potential consumers, but more so just a community that rallies around the brand, understands the mission, and can sort of be your white knights moving forward. The biggest mistakes I make from early stage companies are not perfecting the product, throwing a shit ton of money into paid ads, especially when the content isn't up to par. I mean, that is like a whole other conversation. But I think it's really important to understand your consumer, create something that is designed for them, and be so insanely proud about the product that retention will take care of itself.